Hey guys, Sean here and welcome to the F1 Word. So, here we are then, the summer break and what a first stint of the season it has been, especially if you're a McLaren fan. The team has, I think it's fair to say, largely dominated the season so far with a couple of Max Verstappen victories and one for George Russell thrown in there just to break things up a little bit. Otherwise, it's been all McLaren, with the team even grabbing 4 consecutive 1-2 finishes on the run-up to the mid-season break to add to the 3 they already had. I don't think this statement's going to be too controversial, but I think predicting who will win the Constructors' Championship is a pretty pointless conversation. However, when it comes to the Drivers' Championship, things are much closer and it really is game on. So for today's video, I thought I'd have a run through their seasons so far and offer my prediction on who I think will come out on top in the battle between Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. As that line probably already confirms, yes, I do see this as a 2-horse race. Max Verstappen is the best part of 100 points behind the championship leader, 97 if you want me to be specific, and so whilst not absolutely impossible, he's very unlikely to close that gap down. Yes, it is Max Verstappen, and if anyone can, he can, but given the pace advantage the McLaren has, other attributes such as tyre management as well, and the fact Red Bull seems to be going backwards, it's a lead not even the Dutchman is going to be able to overhaul. Maybe this goes without saying, but, I have to mention him because he's not that far off Max. The same goes for George Russell, who, even though he's having a very good season, is 15 points further back. Again, this is Piastri versus Norris all the way. The gap at the top has ebbed and flowed all season so far, but Piastri has led the way for much of it, having taken the championship lead following his win in Jeddah, Norris leading up until that point. Across the opening 14 races, Piastri has grabbed 6 wins to Norris's 5, but the two have the same number of podium finishes with a total of 12 apiece, so it's close in terms of those stats, but it's even closer in the head-to-heads, with Piastri winning 8-6 in the qualifying battle, but the drivers are tied at 7-all in the race comparison. All of that leaves the Aussie on top with 284 points and the Brit just 9 points behind on 275. Piastri actually enjoyed a 22-point lead at one stage, and let's face it, looked to be very much in control, and that was a lead that was helped by an impressive run of 4 wins from the opening 6 races, including 3 in a row between Bahrain and Miami. That lead was cut down though after Norris hit a strong run of form himself. Post-Canada, Lando won 3 of the 4 races in the run-up to the summer break, and as already sort of mentioned, was second in Spa to his teammate. Sure, there was a loss of points there, but overall, he's done a great job to bring that gap back down. And all of that has set us up for a potentially thrilling end to the season, especially if things get a bit tetchy between them and we get the added drama of a proper rivalry thrown in. To be clear, as fun as it would be as a neutral in this fight, I don't necessarily mean the levels of Senna and Prost, but a battle with some bite to it would be nice as well. But what does this mean for the final 10 races of 2025? Piastri has got the lead, but it is a slender one, and so whilst he has the most to lose right now, he can't be as conservative as perhaps he might have been when he had that 22-point lead. Sure, there still will be an element of doing a Prost and focusing on bagging the maximum points he can if his teammate is going to win, but even if he simply just follows Norris home when the Brit does win, it'll only take 2 races for that 9-point lead to become a 5-point deficit. Not that he hasn't been to this point, but he's going to have to start taking more risks once the season gets going again. As for Norris, his goal is clear, isn't it? He already has to take a few more risks, as we saw with the strategy gamble in Hungary, and must continue to do so. The other thing he absolutely has to do is cut down on his mistakes. Now, firstly, the suggestion that Norris is the only McLaren driver to make mistakes this season is absolutely false. Sure, the conditions were tricky and both cars went off, but Piastri spun in Australia and ended up 9th with his teammate taking the win. He also threw away a victory in Silverstone thanks to his heavy braking behind the safety car. There are also question marks around his strategy call in Austria, and perhaps there are others too. Let me know in the comments. But there is no denying that Norris has made the most mistakes of the two this season, and they have been really costly. The most recent example is Spa, where he made at least 3 big errors to add to the time he lost in his slower pit stop, which cost him a chance of taking the fight to Piastri for the win. He also hit the back of his teammate in Canada whilst going for a gap that absolutely did not exist. And by his own admission, he's also made too many errors in qualifying. Now, of course, as that statement proves, he doesn't need people like me or you or pundits on TV telling him that, because he clearly knows that he's making too many mistakes, and so will be fully aware that he needs to iron them out if he's going to win the World Championship. In fact, he also said pre-Hungary, or post-Belgium, both I suppose, that the title will be decided by who makes the fewest mistakes between now and the end of the year. So on that note, put quite simply, he needs to sort them out. It has to be said, though, that when you are the hunter in races and the championship, you have to take more risks and you're generally pushing harder. And that in turn naturally can and does lead to more mistakes. That was all likely a factor in the errors at Spa. Looking at the two drivers, I think both have taken a good step forward this year, but I'd argue Piastri has taken an even bigger leap forward. One of the big questions we discussed in the preseason testing streams was whether or not Oscar had the ability, consistency, and mentality at this stage of his career to take the title fight to Lando and, as we thought at the time, Max Verstappen. And 14 races down, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind whatsoever that he definitely does. And if he doesn't pull it off this year, he's surely a champion of the future, assuming McLaren deliver the car he needs, of course, or he finds a team who can further down the line. He has impressed me so much this season. And so has Lando, to be fair, by the way. Mistakes, yeah, sure. But he's also pulled off some impressive wins, and he too has taken, as I say, a good step forward in 2025 versus last year. He's not the complete package yet, neither of them are, but they are well on their way. Both are quick, and it's much easier to help fast, error-prone drivers stop making mistakes than it is to teach a clean, slow driver to find speed. Does that make sense? It did in my head, so I'll take that as a win. But who is coming out on top come the end of the season? Well, to be clear, I honestly don't really care either way. Certainly not to the point where I'd be disappointed with either of them taking the crown. If Piastri wins, that's fantastic. If Norris wins, that's awesome. That said, and as I've mentioned on stream, I think more than a couple of times at this point, it would be nice to have our first Aussie F1 World Champion since Alan Jones all the way back in 1980. Even I wasn't born then. It's been a while, so I guess in some ways I'd be happier with Piastri winning, but to reiterate the point, I'm really not overly fussed either way. My prediction, though, and this is tough to be fair, is that this gets decided in Abu Dhabi in that finale with Oscar Piastri just, and I mean just, coming out on top. I will admit, though, that given his recent run and the fact that, thanks to taking the upgrade offered, his car is more to his liking now, I do have a little feeling Norris might just nick it. Bearing in mind that whilst the car wasn't really working for him initially this season, he still managed to keep himself in the fight. So if he's got a car that he's happy with, he's got a better chance of winning. But as I have to pick one of them, I'll go with Oscar. Either way, the end to 2025 could well be a lot of fun. And if the two of them start running into each other every week, get ready for title number 5 for Max Verstappen. And then I woke up. That is it for this one then, but let me know down in the comments who you think will win the 2025 Drivers' Championship title. Now, I will be back soon with some more content as always, but in the meantime, if you did enjoy this one, then please do leave a like, as it really does help the channel in its never-ending battle with that YouTube algorithm, and consider subscribing too so you don't miss any future videos or streams. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.